I shall expect you to take up your duties on August 8th. The train is at 12:40 from Paddington. Una Nancy Owen. Mr. Marston?
I don't actually know the ones. I got a wire from a pal of mine. I haven't kept the wire, I'm afraid.
Thank you. Dr. Armstrong.
Mr. Owen wrote me that he was concerned about his wife's health, her nerves to be precise. He told me that my visit should be seen as that of any ordinary guest.
And you had no previous acquaintance to the family?
No.
Dear Miss Brent, I do hope you remember me. I shall be very glad if you could see your way to spending your summer holiday on Soldier Island as my guest. I suggest August 8th, 12:40 from Paddington. Yours sincerely, U.N. That is a slightly ambiguous signature.
Look here, I've just
In a minute,
but I have
you must take one thing at a time if you don't mind, Captain Lombard. General.
Got a letter from this fellow Owen. Thought I must have met him sometime at the club before. Haven't kept the letter, I'm afraid.
And you, Captain Lombard?
Same sort of thing. I haven't kept the letter either.
Just now, we had a somewhat disturbing experience. An apparently disembodied voice spoke to us all by name, uttering certain accusations against us. Amongst the names received was that of William Henry Blore, but as far as we know, there is no one named Blore amongst us. The name Davis was never mentioned. What have you got to say about that, Mr. Davis?
Cat's out of the bag, it seems. Suppose I'd better admit my name isn't Davis.
So you are William Henry Blore?
That's right.
I will add something to that. Not only are you here under a false name, Mr. Blore, you claim to have come from South Africa. I know South Africa, and I'm prepared to swear you've never set foot there in your life.
You men have got me all wrong. I'm an ex-CID man.
Oh, a copper.
I have my credentials and I can prove it. I run a detective agency in Plymouth. I was put onto this job.
By whom?
Why, Mr. Owen. Said I was to join the house party, posing as a guest.
Any reason given?
Said Miss Owen had got some valuable jewels. Miss Owen, my foot, I don't believe there's any such person.
Your conclusions, I think, are justified. Una Nancy Owen. Each time this is to say U.N. Owen, or by a slight stroke of fancy, unknown.
But that's mad. Fantastic.
Oh yes, I have no doubt in my mind that we have been invited here by a madman, probably a dangerous homicidal lunatic.
Oh my God!
Whoever it is who has enticed us here, that person has taken the trouble of finding a great deal about us, a very great deal. And that person has made certain accusations against us.
Oh,
I wish to say this. Our known friend accuses me of the murder of Edward Seton. I remember Seton perfectly well. He came up before me for trial in June. He was charged with the murder of an old woman. The appeal was dismissed and the man was duly executed. I wish to say before you all that my conscience is perfectly clear on the matter. I did my duty and nothing more. I passed sentence on a rightly convicted murderer.
Did you know Seton at all? Personally,
I knew nothing of Seton previous to the trial.
Fellow's a madman. Absolute madman. Got a bee in his bonnet. Got hold of the wrong end of the stick all around. Best we leave this sort of thing unanswered. However, I feel I ought to say no truth. No truth in whatever he said about young Anne Richmond. Richmond was one of my officers. I sent her on reconnaissance. She was killed. Also like to say, resent very much, sir, my husband, best man in the whole world.
You know, I've just been thinking. John and Lucy Combs? They must have been a couple of kids I ran over at Cambridge. Beastly bad luck.
For them or for you?
Well, I was thinking for me. But of course you're right, sir. It was damn bad luck for them too. It was pure accident, of course. They rushed out of some cottage other. I had my license suspended for a year. Beastly nuisance.
This speeding's all wrong. All wrong. Young men like you are a danger to the community.
Couldn't help it. Just an accident.
Might I say a word, sir?
Go ahead, Rogers.
There was a mention, sir, of me and Mrs. Rogers, and of Miss Jennifer Brady. There isn't a word of truth in it, sir. We were with Miss Brady when she died. We'd done everything possible for her. Devoted to her we were. Anyone will tell you the same. There was never a word said against us. Never a word.
Came into a nice little something at her death, I suppose, didn't you?
Miss Brady left us a legacy in recognition of our faithful service. And why not, I'd like to know.
What about yourself, Lord?
What about me?
Your name was on the list.
I know. Lender, you mean? Bells of London and commercial bank robbery.
I remember the name, but it didn't come before me. Lender was convicted on your evidence. You were the police officer in charge of the case.
I was.
Lender got penal servitude and died in Dartmoor a year later. He was a delicate man.
He was a crook! It was him who put the night watchman out. The case was clear from the start.
You were complimented, I think, on your able handling of the case.
I got my promotion. I was only doing my duty.
Convenient word, duty. What about yourself, Doctor?
I'm at a loss to understand the matter. The name meant nothing to me. What was it? Close? It may very well have been one of my hospital cases. They come in too late, so many of them, and when the patient dies, it's always the surgeon's fault.
And then, of course, it's better to take up nerve cases and give up surgery. Some, of course, give up drink.
I protest! You have no right to insinuate such things. I never touched alcohol.
My dear, I never suggested you did.
Miss Claythorne.
I was nursing governess to Peter Hamilton. We were in Cornwall for the summer. There was a rock far out he was always trying to swim to. One day, when my attention was distracted, he started off. I couldn't get there in time.
Was there an inquest?
Yes, I was exonerated by the coroner. His mother didn't blame me either.
Miss Brent?
I have nothing to say.
Nothing.
Nothing.
You reserve your defense.
There is no question of defense. I have always acted according to the dictates of my conscience.
What a law-abiding lot we seem to be, myself excepted.
We're still waiting for your story, Captain Lombard.
I haven't got a story.
What do you mean?
I'm sorry to disappoint all of you. It's just that I plead guilty. It's perfectly true. I left those natives alone in the bush. Matter of self-preservation.
You abandoned your men?
Not quite the act of a proper gentleman, I must admit. However, self-preservation's a man's first duty. And natives don't mind dying, you know. They don't feel about it the way Europeans do.
Our inquiry rests there. Now, Rogers, who else is on this island besides ourselves and you and your wife?
No one, sir.
Are you sure of that?
Quite sure, sir.
Thank you. Don't go, Rogers. I'm not yet clear as to the purpose of Mr. Owen in getting us to assemble here, but in my opinion, he may be dangerous. He may be a lunatic. I think it would be well for everybody to leave as soon as possible. I suggest we leave here tonight.
Yes.
Definitely.
I beg your pardon, sir, but there's no boat on the island.
What? No boat at all?
No, sir.
Why don't you telephone to the mainland?
There's no telephone, sir. Jane Narracott, she comes every morning. She brings the post and the eggs and the bread and the cheese and takes the orders.
It's a bit unsporting, what? Guess we ought to ferret out this whole mystery before we go. Whole thing's like a detective story. Positively thrilling.
I have no desire for thrills, Mr. Marston.
Illegal life snaring. I'm all for crime. Here's to it.
He's dead!
Dead! Didn't mean the fellow just to choke and die?
You can call it choking if you like. He died of asphyxiation right enough.
Never knew a man could just die like that. It's a choking fit.
In the middle of life, we are in death.
A man doesn't die of a mere choking fit, General Mackenzie. Marston's death is not what we'd call a natural death.
Was there something in the whiskey?
Yes, by the smell of its cyanide. Probably potassium cyanide. It acts rather, well, instantaneously.
Then he must have put the stuff in the glass himself.
Suicide, eh? That's a wrong go.
But you never think he'd commit suicide. He was so happy. He was enjoying himself.
Oh, look! Here's one of the little soldiers from the mantelpiece. It's broken.